threatening me? Hello, everyone. Welcome to a conversation that has come up in a very quick fashion, right, Heidi? It's just been a few days since this first came up. For those of you who haven't joined us before, I'm Clarissa Constantine. I'm the founder of the Parent-Tween Connection. And Heidi Conway is one of our trusted experts. She is actually out in Brisbane, Australia. So it is 7 o'clock in the morning for her, 3 in the afternoon for me here in Colorado. So hi, Heidi. Thank you. And thanks for being with us first.
You're welcome, and thank you. Thank you so much.
So today's conversation actually came up kind of as a fluke in a way, because I just on a whim decided to start a general chat, like a conversation chat in the Facebook group for Parent-Tween Connection. And it's just kind of gone organically. And last week, a mom commented something to the effect of a quote from her kiddo, her 19-year-old, who was like, Mom, you know what? The fact is, you're wrong, always have been wrong, always will be wrong. And I just feel compelled to do the exact opposite of whatever you tell me to do. And this poor mom is like, what did I say? What did I do? Why is it that my kid thinks I'm as moronic as can be? And I had some thoughts as the daughter in that situation. Like, I'll own that there were times that I was like, if my mother said yes, I said no, just on principle. And you had some great perspectives as a mom, because I'm not a mother, but also as a change maker coach, you had some insights and you said, hey, let's have a conversation about this. So we are recording this. Folks do join us. I'll bring them into the Zoom as we go. But if not, it's going to go to YouTube and into our Facebook group. And Heidi, I know that this poor mom was not the only mom who feels this way. What's going on with kids who are like, no, you're wrong, end of story?
The thank you before was for the privilege of this all happening so quickly, and the impulse that I got when I read this, that I went, yes, I can, let's get some insight or discussion onto this. However, many parent coaches and the experts in Parent-Tween Connection may have different takes on what's happening right now. But I'm going to talk in the short time we have, because I've got another event after this, on what was the impulse, what needs to be shared in this moment. And you're not going anywhere, I'm not going anywhere. We can have lots of more conversations if that's wanted and we want to share that. So firstly, I'll say with that opposition, like I'm not going to do what you're going to say, I'm going to say the exact opposite. There is actually a disorder, and I'm not talking about that here. So that's ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, usually shows up when the child is in preschool, not 19, can show up later, but that's what I'm not going to be talking about. So that's a whole different thing, and you can get help from your a mental health professional for that as well.
Good clarification. Thank you.
What we are talking about is as a teenager becomes a teenager and grows up, there is this natural tendency that they want to find out who they are and what their self-image is. So this chap here is 19 already, so he's probably gone through, his mum and him have gone through quite a journey already, no doubt.
Probably, yeah.
So what we say is between 0 and 7, our children are finding and are asking the question, why? Why are things happening the way they are? Between 7 and 14 is what's going on? What's to learn here? What happens when I do that? Between 14 and 21, so he's in that bracket still, saying, who am I? Who am I? Who are my? Who's got my back? Who's my team? And definitely, what is my self-image? So, and after that, we go into the when and where and hows. So, finding out who we are, he doesn't want to know. Like our teenagers, we tell them things that they naturally will maybe want to do the opposite. I say naturally and still maybe, because it also depends on the connection that you've had younger. So, okay, slow down. I've got so many things in my head, and I know I've got a short time. So how I'm going to share this is when our kids are young, preteen, and it sometimes starts in the tween, the 8, 9, 10-year-olds as well. Before that, we've got an attachment, and you and I have had quick talk about this before, that we are attached. Our child is totally reliant on us. And as they want, I just mentioned that they want to find out who they are. They can't do that when they're attached to us. And so there's a detachment that needs to come. So I think this mother was asking, should I even bother talking to him if he's going to push back on everything? From memory, I think she said that. If he's going to push back on everything that I say, should I even bother talking to him? And I think then it becomes about listening to him, because in this detachment, it's like, oh, cool. So what's your thoughts on that? So when we detach and we let go, and this is mums and dads, it's scary. And some of that scariness and sadness that we are detaching, it is sad, especially when we're on our last teen as well. And it really can be quite sad for the mother and want to hang on, you know. And then, but the teen, it's natural, it's driving them. They can't even explain it, you know. And we can go into in another session what's happening in the brain. But there is no logic to it. It's just they need to find out who they are. And, you know, many years ago, we didn't even have this thing called teenagers. Like, you know, Little House on the Prairie days, she was teaching school at like 15, 16 or something.
Absolutely. Like that.
Yeah. So we've you know, and again, we can talk about that at another time, how the word teenagers and all of that came in, and maybe you've addressed that with the parent-tween connection at some point. So they are finding out who they are. They want to create their self-image and their own self-image, and they're driven to do that. So as the mum pulls back, the mum needs to pull back and what we call hold the space for the teen. So I've got a few slides that may help in defining what's actually going on and what our choices are. So let me see if I can share. Hang on, I've got them there, but.
And as you're pulling that up, one of the other points that the mom had made in the conversation in our chat was, what purpose does this serve for him? And I think you just answered that, in that it's not even a conscious, intentional, I have a purpose that I'm trying to achieve idea going on. It's that this is part of what some refer to as individuation, the who am I independent of my parents. And it's a natural process to, I've heard another analogy of like, moms are kind of used to being the edges of the swimming pool that the kids hang on to when they're little, but then as they get older, they start not just swimming into the middle of the pool, but sometimes actually kicking off the side of the pool. And I've heard moms say that it can very much feel like they just got punched in the gut or kicked in the gut when their kid has said or done something like this. It's a very visceral, like physical response, but the fact is it's normal, like it's supposed to happen. And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but it is part of the natural order of things.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's exactly what it's like. And you know what? It doesn't have to hurt. It is kind of natural that it hurts as the mum, but it doesn't have to hurt if we're aware. It can actually be quite a joyous situation. And I think what happens is that parents, and again, I mainly coach mothers of teenagers on this, and it's not about just letting go and detaching. It's coming back and connecting. So it kind of happens naturally when they're, you know, older, 20 or so. When I say that's naturally, what I'm reading in many posts and many from many of my clients in the past that have got, like my oldest client, the mum, the teen or young person is actually 27. So I started like 12, 13 to 27. So it naturally happens that the connection comes back. But what about if we do that with more awareness? So what about if we've got a connection as they're finding out who they are, we are connected. So not only have we detached and we've left it at that, so there's this wound and it's like ripped out, it's actually filled. There's this vacuum anyway. So the vacuum can be filled with arguments and, you know, controlling and in again, often, you know, wanting to have impact and, you know, have that control rather than encourage and have a beautiful connection and listen. So the alternative education that we have here is to realize that I'm not the parent coach. You are the coach. You are the parent that can have coaching skills. So that's what I wanted to pass on. So when she asked, do I even bother talking to him? Well, what coaching skills, authentic coaching skills, can you wash over you being the parent? So this is part of a bigger presentation that I did at the the UK Homeschools Summit, the Learn Free Homeschool Summit. So I've really taken a lot out. So what is communication when we're talking about authentic communication as well, but just in general communication, we'll have to remember, and it's a reminder, many mothers may know this or parents may know this already, but it's 7% words. I think we need a reminder of that because we say, I've told him over and over again, I've told her, you know, I've told them, you know, over and over. It's only 7% words. 38% tone of voice is a puppy dog coming in and 55% body language. So just be mindful of that. There we go here. 7% words, 38% tone of voice. And it's about accepting what our kids are doing, but maybe not agreeing. Okay, so even when they say, I'm stupid, to accept that and not agree with them because you know you know who they are. But instead of coming in with the communication, go, I know you're not stupid, you know, you're great. But they haven't got rid of that thought. So they're finding out who they are, and they could just as well slot in there. How many adults do we know that have got negative beliefs about themselves? Because Absolutely. They can slot that in as part of their identity. We want them to have a positive, real, you know, identity that's going to serve them in life. So then you say, tell me more about that. Tell me, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you're stupid? What's going on, love? You know, so you actually, as much as that's hurting because you know they are so much more than that, yeah, so just find out where they're at. Tell me more about that. So accept, but not agree with where they're at. And that doesn't mean judge them. You know, I don't agree with what you're doing. You don't come out with that. It's just I accept what's actually happening in the moment. So holding that space for them. Who is my teen? And we say, what is a change maker teen? Have I deleted some slides here? No, I think. But then we want to say, well, who am I then? Who am I? And what do I desire? So our teams are finding out, well, who am I? What's my identity? What do I actually want in life? Physically, you know, what do I want to do? Who am I physically? What do I look like? This is when they might color their hair different colors and maybe piercings or just wanting to be their individual self. Mentally, what are my thoughts? Who am I that I am? Am I stupid? Am I smart? Am I a good friend? You know, who am I? Emotionally, what am I feeling? What are my emotions all about? Spiritually, what do I believe? And maybe even financially already, because that's can be scary for young people going, I'm going to be stuck at home till I'm 25, like, or 35, you know, with where the world's at. So who am I? And this is they think about things at all different levels. They may not put it under those categories, but this is what's going on when they're trying to find out who they are. So how do I prefer my mother to raise me, to be my authentic self, to be the change maker? I believe we're all change makers, and we all have a purpose and passion here. So to be the change maker I was born to be. Now, interrupt me at any time.
So I actually had a question for you. One
Yes.
of the things that I've seen come up, and I can speak to this from my own experience, is to your point of accept, not agree.
Yeah.
Not only is that something that I see come up when when the young person says, I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that, or the other thing, But I see that come up in a multitude of those other arenas where a kiddo says, I don't want to go to college, which is very different than what parents might expect. Or, I have a gender identity or a sexual identity that's different than what my parents may agree with, depending on their experiences. Or I, I don't, I have different spiritual beliefs than you or religious beliefs than you. And what are your what would you advise to a parent who finds themselves in a situation like that where their kiddo comes up and says something that may feel pretty catastrophic? If somebody's a follower of a particular religion, and all of a sudden their child is pushing that away, and the parents are so devout in that belief system, how do we guide the parents to accept even if they don't agree? Because that's a hard pill to swallow, I would say, for some families, depending on, and those are just some examples, but the list goes on.
I would say it's the same. So to answer that question, I would go back to, well, why is it catastrophic?
Okay.
Why is it catastrophic? Because yes, it's different to what the parent believes. It's different to what they envisaged for them. So I took my kids out of school at age 8 and 11, and it was only meant to be a short time. And there's a thing called deschooling. So we're talking about de-attachment, deschooling, and it was like detaching from that school environment. And what happens over and over again, as especially then as they grew, we did it long term, and as they were growing up, and I see other there's the school formals, and there's this, everything happening at school, and that's what I thought I envisaged for the child. That's what I thought was the right thing. But when I've got a saying, walk where your feet are. So where your feet are, parents, when your child says that to you, is exactly that place. They are saying that to you now. It becomes catastrophic. It becomes devastating when we think about the future. They're not going to go to uni. They're not going to be successful. Because they're not going to college, they're not going to be successful. Because they're following a different religion or shunning our religion totally, then that means they, oh my gosh, they will never meet God face to face. It can be so and you will end up in the fires of hell, but that's all that worry about the future, when all what we deal, the child just mentioned this in this moment. You can't influence anything when you're coming from that space, when you're worried, when it becomes about you. So the authentic coach approach is almost that we don't exist. And that's can be triggering to parents sometimes.
Absolutely,
because they say, you disrespect me as if I'm not here. I don't mean that. It means when you're in that moment with your child, that's all that matters. Okay. And even if it's on the way to school in the car, or on the way they're going to bed or out the door, just say, that's interesting. I want to know where all of that came from. And remember the tone of voice, 38% tone of voice, not, what are you thinking? That's not on. We need to talk about this, young man.
Absolutely.
Or, now's not the time, but I'm really curious how you got to that, love. And it's holding the space, being non-judgmental. And we need to work on ourselves in order to be able to come from that place. So meditate, journal, breathe, know who you are. And I think some of us adults went through teenage years and felt that they weren't able to be themselves either, and didn't know who they were. So we found out in our 20s and 30s, or maybe as we're giving birth to our young ones, who in fact we actually are. So and from a religious perspective, they may not want a religion, and they may want a relationship with God or something else. And so it's holding the space. So many mums come to me and say they've lost their own identity, that by raising children, they don't know where they are anymore.
Sure.
And this is the beauty of teenage years, is that we get to work and connect to ourselves while they're busy finding, instead of trying to be in their camp, we can connect to us and be the change for our young change maker to be all they can be. Now, the sexual identity, like the identity and all of that, is still listen to them or you'll lose them. I'm again, accept but not agree. And maybe that, I mean, that's something we can't, a lot of these things we can't deal with in the next 10 minutes.
Oh,
However,
absolutely.
Stay in the moment and hold the space for that conversation.
That's awesome.
Is the thing.
I love your saying, walk where your feet are. And thank you for addressing that, because I know at least some of those are experiences that I had with my own mom. And, I work with so many families across all kinds of backgrounds and expectations and experiences, as do you. And so I love hearing things put differently, that from somebody who's been there, done that, especially, All right. Thank you for answering that. Back to your show.
This is ours. Yeah, this is for the mum. So, and that's the challenge when she's actually not here, to how to make it, purely for her. But where there's one, there's many, and I'm sure this beautiful mum will see it on the replay. So the teen is going, who am I? What do I desire? And there's one side of us that is that control, and we disguise as love, dare I say. We disguise as love because I know what's right for you. I've been there. So parents communicate in a controlling manner. I heard a teen the other day, and he was going out at 8:30. He wanted to go to a mate's place, and he didn't talk to his mum. Why? Because there's probably not a lot of connection there at the moment. And when the mum saw, she set up a camera to watch what's happening, going in and out the door. And she went to the door and says, "Where do you think you're going?" He had an appointment with me to work on his resume or curriculum vitae. I don't know what you call it there, but his resume the next morning. And he missed that appointment. And when I found out where he was, he slept in, and he actually drank too much, 16. And he drank too much. Now, he wanted to go out that door and be with a mate. But because his mum said, "Where do you think you're going?" instead of, "Where are you going, mate?" "Oh, okay. How are you getting there, love?" And actually just, okay, he wants to go somewhere, but he may not have wanted to go and drink all night, but he left so angry. And when usually alcohol, spirit, we're actually looking for spirit. We're looking for connection. When we're literally drinking spirits or even beer or whatever, we are looking for connection. Generalization, but that's sure. In my it's been proven more than once. So doubt their team's ability to succeed their way. Our way is the only way. So they get all blurry, the pictures there. They all get blurry, going, I don't know, I love my mum, I love my dad, I'm so, like, they brought me up, and there's this attachment. So that's the pull. I love them. I want to do what they want to do and say. However, this pull to be my own self is bigger. It is bigger. And they don't think about it like that. It's just what's happening. So they don't want to disappoint. So, you've got a teenager that says, sorry all the time, or hits themselves because they want to do the right thing by us. But they end up, it becomes so more important to do what they need to do. And also, if their work hasn't been done when they're little and the family's clear on the values of the family, we get peer orientated instead of parent orientated with their values. So instead of coming back to what I was taught as a young person, I can find out who I am within this, and it becomes all unconscious. but they don't get waylaid by all, like this young man that was leaving at 8:30 at night. He was very much peer orientated with what fun was and what value, the values were, instead of what his mum's trying to control him to do.
Mhm.
So we doubt that the team's ability to succeed their way. Criticize the way of speaking or expressing themselves. That's you don't talk like that, don't. So that's what I was saying before. Instead of criticizing that and thinking that it's all out of love, let's look at it a different way. And the other way is, think about what you really desire for them. So, when you put up the post and say, what do you really want for your teens? What do you want? And maybe put that one up today in the parent tween teen connection. It's often one that is asked, but I haven't seen it lately. So let's find out, what do you actually want? Let's help parents get clear on what you really desire for your young people. When I asked, when I was at uni, I asked my father, what do you really want for us anyway? What do you want for us? And he said, to be happy. Okay, but happy under whose guise,
Right, by whose standards of happy?
Yes. I ended up doing environmental science because my dad worked in the field, and I tried librarianship, what mum did. I tried that on for work experiences as a teen, and I hated it. It was so boring. So I thought, okay, my only option is doing what dad does and work. And so I studied environmental science, and then ended up in pollution and health. And then when I was in a role doing investigations for safety and environment, people came to me and said, you should be a counsellor because you always get to the root cause of things. I went, oh, there might be something there. So, incidents that happened in the workplace, sometimes the contributing factor was something that was happening at home. And people just volunteered that information when I just got curious and asked. So I had natural coaching and counselling skills right from then. So yes, we want for them to be happy, we want them to be confident, we want them to be encouraged. So usually happy, confident, and future ready are the things that I see and hear. Mm-hmm. So parents use words like be yourself, be authentic, live your passion and purpose, be free, self-directed learning is okay. So basically self-directed learning, or do what you want to learn, take the subjects you want to learn, go to the college you want to learn, it's okay, go for it. So it's like the two extremes. So we're encouraging, sure, and whatever words you use when you're sharing, that you want them to be happy. And of course, we want them to be safe and responsible for their choices as well.
Well, and the thought that just came up for me is, in many circles, you hear conversations about decisions that we make are either based in fear or they're based in love. And that it seems to me that some of what you had on the prior slide, the more of the controlling perspective or controlling approach is probably more based in fear.
Yes.
Because it's more, I'm afraid you're going to get hurt. I'm afraid you're not going to be successful. I'm afraid you're going to make a mistake that's going to be, have lifelong damaging effects. And it's possible, right? That can happen. But it seems to me that when you come at it on this side, it's not to say that fear isn't in some of these or isn't underneath some of the concerns, but that it's more love driving the bus or driving the thinking patterns than fear driving the thinking patterns. Like, I love you, whoever you are, however you are, be yourself, be authentic. I trust that you're going to get there and you're going to find your pathway. And you're savvy enough, smart enough, capable enough, connected enough, whatever enough, like you are enough, period.
You are enough, yeah.
To become whomever you're meant to be.
And do you think that feels better for them? Of course. Of course. So that becomes part of their identity. Even when they've made a stupid decision, and they're so-called stupid decision, and they're in a pickle, then they hear this voice going, you always work everything out. Everything always works out for you. You've got this. You are enough. And then they go, okay, well, if I'm enough, what would I do now? Well, I'd get out of this situation, because then that just turns up the volume and the brightness and the intensity of their belief about themselves. But unless they went through their choice and played that out, they may not have got to that realization. So we want them to play things out and still be alive, though. But absolutely, the Changemaker communication to become an authentic coach. I've got a course in raising changemakers, and it's all about communication based in love, not fear.
Right.
Absolutely. So thank you.
Love it. Love it.
For bringing that together. So this is what you desire for them, what you desire or don't really for them, like if you ask the truth. So remember, during all of this, you've got the opportunity to connect to you and be the change. And I love that the recognition of something or reflection that you're seeing in your team is and it might press buttons in you, is an opportunity for connection. So what the reflection is, what you're seeing is an opportunity for connection. So he's not, I'm going to say, I'm driven, Mum, to say the opposite to everything you're saying. I mean, that could also be even a little bit, you can put humor on that. Going, okay, all right, I've heard this happens to teenagers, I was expecting this actually when you were 16, but here it comes at 19. All right. And it's not, all right, let's go on this ride. It's like, okay, tell me about that, love. Tell me, like, what's going, what do you really want to do? What haven't I heard? What haven't I heard? What have you been trying to tell me, love? I'm sorry that you haven't. Like, sometimes, like, I've thought, how come I didn't have a safe place? It wasn't a safe place for my boys to come to me. What was it? Okay, I was working too much or whatever, It's a rare thought I have now, but early days, I've got 16 and 19 and 21-year-old boys at the moment. So 21-year-old's a stepson. So that's another whole dynamic as well.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I've just got the disclaimer. Actually, I had a disclaimer at the beginning. So I've cut the slides down quite a lot. So I'll stop sharing there. Just, I guess, if anyone wants to, I don't know where you can see my camera is. So the picture is, if anyone wants to take a shot of that, but let's
I'm gonna
just
take a quick shot of it. Oh, no, I'm not. That's okay.
Oh, did you?
It's okay. I didn't catch it before you did. That's fine.
Okay. There it is.
So I'd love to take a little bit more opportunity to build on what you said about creating a safe space, because so much of what we do at Parent Twin Connection is based on the foundations of connection. And this month's connection call, which is actually this coming Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be talking more specifically about creating a safe space. So things that you've talked about that I see that fall into that, the accept, even if you don't agree, it's what is for them. Tell me more, paying attention to that the words are only 7% of your communication, that the visual, the tone of voice are so much more. Another thought that came up for me, and this has been part of the ongoing conversation in our community chat, is the duality of right versus wrong. Right? And so I'd love, within the construct of how do we maintain that space, how do we hold space for them with this perceived duality of right and wrong? I'd love your take on that.
Well, what's the definition of right or wrong? What's right for you is not right for me. So what's right for your teen is not right. So if we can talk, we talking about the law? Of course, there's right or wrong,
Sure.
From a law perspective. And even that, sometimes the law deserves to be challenged.
Sure.
Lots of better laws have come into place because there's been the rascal that has challenged that, and good for them. So what is right or wrong? So I guess I've got 10, many years ago, I coached somebody who had cancer. I don't know if I've told you this before. And he rang me and said, I met him through the National Speakers Association, and he said, can you coach me through my throat cancer? And I said, on 2 conditions. And he said, what's that? And I said, one is to know you are well. Know that you are well and there's something going on in your body. So let's look at that. And the other one was that I could take my end of the conversation, because people were telling me that I was different in my approach and coaching, and I didn't know what. So as a result of me taping my end, it was in the tape recorder days, many years ago. I've been coaching for many years, decades. And what came out of that is communication keys. So 10 keys to coaching communication and to be the change maker. And one of those keys is that it's all good. So if it's all right, there is no wrong, and come from that place of peace. Because what's actually right is if you and your team are in alignment with who they are. And that will, or if they're truly being themselves and you're truly being yourself, it will be good. It will be the ecological check. You can do the ecological check. Is this thought, is this action safe for me, for others, for my family, for my community, for my mom? Is this is this safe for me? Is this safe for others? Is this safe for the environment? Safe as in, is it enhancing? Is it growing? Is it, so if it's not feeling good, and this is simplistic, there's lots we can talk in that, and if the gap's big and if this is triggering people or whatever, if it's not feeling good, it's usually because that's not the truth. And if you say that we are enough, and completely enough, this is, even if you don't believe, like if you're a believer, God has promised you and you are an abundance in everything. If you're not a believer, let's walk where your feet are and say, okay, I am enough, and that feels good, then that's the truth. So if we've got anxiety, if feeling anxious moments, if we're feeling sad or whatever, yes, they're all emotions to be acknowledged, and they move us to the next level, and they need to be cradled and acknowledged. And what if that's not the truth? When you're anxious, I talked to a parent the other day, and she was having anxious moments whenever she was around her girls at the moment, because they're going through stuff. And I said, and she is a believer, and I said, well, remember that God doesn't think the same way about your girls. And that's why you're feeling anxious, to align you back to the truth.
To her truth, anyway.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, Heidi, I know that you need to go because I know you're hosting your journaling session. Can you share about that? And as you share about it, I'm putting the link to your Facebook group in the chat window.
Thank you. Yes, so every Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning in Australia. So it'll be Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday nights, evenings. We do have people joining us from UK, etc. So up in the Northern Hemisphere, and we'd love you to join us here for the journaling coaching session. So I normally talk about a topic, what is either going on for me, because I say where there's one, there's many, that we're all going through the same thing, but a little bit differently. But I don't make it. It's not about me. It's definitely about what's happening in the community, just like we've done here. And then we journal about it. We get some prompts and we journal, and it just works so well. And sometimes there's only 7 minutes of journaling, sometimes there's 14, 21. It depends on how the balance goes and how the chat goes. So if you'd like to be in there, because it is one way to really know who you are and connect to you, and that's got to help our young ones. Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Heidi, thank you so much. We are going to make sure this is in Parent Tween Connection Facebook group, as well as on our YouTube channel for folks to catch. And for anybody who would like to connect with Heidi, again, you can find her Facebook group. It's Raising Changemaker Teens. And your website, again, Heidi, is raisingchangemakerteens.com, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome.
But, reach out via Messenger, all of that, because I rather talk to people and hear your stories. Love your story. Yeah.
And I can say Heidi is fantastic at Facebook voice messages. It's so much easier to have great conversations with the recordings than by text message or like typing sometimes. So awesome. Heidi, thank you for stepping up when you saw a mom who needed some support. And I know this is going to help some other folks too. So have a great one. Have a beautiful day in Australia. And I'm almost to my evening. So thanks for helping me. Have a great day.
Rest well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.